Good evening. Happy Monday. It's Monday, and I'm so excited that you guys are here. For those of you who are choosing to come on live tonight, I'm so excited about this conversation. Hey, Loopy. I'm so excited about this conversation for many different reasons. But I'm just going to wait till some of you check in. Let me know that you're here. Punch in your name at the bottom of the screen and tell me which corner of the universe you're lighting up tonight. I am so excited about this conversation because it's a conversation about empowerment. And I'm going to get right in as soon as some of you show up and you let me know that you're here. And my thingy here is on the right angle. It's like all this technology that moves around. So I'm so happy to see you guys. For those of you who are showing up, the only way that I know that you're here is if you put something into the chat box. That way I know that you're here. Jay, you're here. Oh my God, how cool. Are you still traveling as much as you are? Wow. I'm so happy to see you. Thank you guys for being here. This is a very exciting conversation for me. It's also a very exciting conversation because I get to have it with men and women together. And I would like to have this conversation because so many women are afraid of conflict. They're afraid of conflict and they're afraid of confrontation. Jay, you're not included in that. I know that you're not. And yet many are. And I want to talk about why that is, why I think that is. Yes, you're geographically stable. Oh my God, honey, it's great to see you too. You and I can now have a conversation. Maybe tomorrow we can actually talk on the phone. Yes, no, you don't have an issue with the confrontation business because just by the mere fact that your life is the way it is, you are constantly in a leadership role, and leaders... What I think makes great leaders is the ability to be with conflict. And so there's a couple of things that I want to talk about tonight. I actually want to start this conversation. It's not a conversation that is, it could just be had in one Facebook Live of 40 minutes or an hour. And I would like to take this conversation into a room and have it actually be a discussion that brings many thought forms together and many different viewpoints. So the reason why I love this conversation and the reason why I'm having it tonight is because I'm constantly confronted with confrontation. and a lot of people ask me, they go, Liana, you don't seem to have any problem with it. And I confront others. So I'm known in my family for the person who's constantly confronting, and don't be in my face. I don't want to talk about this. And why are you doing this? And, most people, look around our world. We haven't learned to be with conflict because we haven't been taught since we were little kids. Thank you for all the hearts, whoever's sending the hearts. Thank you. So for those of you who are new and you're coming on, please put your name into the chat box so I can say hello to you. I'm delighted that you're here. This is not an easy conversation to have. And I'd like to make a distinction at the beginning of this conversation that it takes, for conflict and for confrontation to happen, it takes more than one party. So it isn't just that, we go into a situation and then we feel confronted. There's one who feels confronted and then there's the other one who's confronting. Now, the reason why I'm making this distinction is because this is what I've learned. In order for me to empower myself, I had to understand, and this is one of the things that I teach women all over the world today, and I didn't get this on my own and it didn't come overnight, so just bear with me for a little bit. The distinction of having two parties be in this conversation is very, very important. And the reason why it's important is because we often, the lack of empowerment happens when we abdicate our well-being inside of a confrontation to the other person who's confronting us. So there's two parties. One party is the victim, quote unquote. The other party is the offender. What if you're not a victim? So what I'd like to talk about today is what's the dynamic that happens when we get confronted, when someone confronts us, or someone yells at us, or what happens inside our bodies. So this is a big conversation, and as I said from the beginning, it's not a conversation where you can just change your mindset overnight, because I believe that who we are as a human being in the world, how we are being, the human being, so the beingness of our body, is what contains all of these emotions, negative, positive. All the emotions that we feel are contained in the body, in the muscle. So the embodiment of anger and joy and delight and ecstasy and fright and fear and frustration and all of the feelings that we feel, they're not happening in our head, they're happening in the body. So there's a chemical that gets exuded, mostly adrenaline, when we're angry, and it goes into the body, and then it just wreaks havoc. And so many people, when they get upset or they're confronted, feel like they don't have a choice. They have to react. Let's see, who is this? Oh my God, that's my cousin. Hi, Masujun. It's so nice that you're here. So the confrontation part is also connected to something really negative. We don't have confrontation as something, well, man, I could learn something here. This could be a teaching moment, or this could be something where if I really pay attention and I stay grounded and centered in my body and in my being, hi, darling, then I can actually learn something. I can come to the party and I can learn a new dance. We don't have it that way. We don't have confrontation or negative situations ever in any of that way. So our children do not get taught that this is what we do. Hi, Doris from New York. It's so good to see you. So especially in the community where I grew up, in the Persian community, confrontation was something that parents did with their children and husbands do with their wives. And as I said from the beginning, there's one person that confronts, so there's the victim. So, and I don't want to call it the victim, but I want to call it the person that is being confronted, and then the other person that is the one that's confronting. So let's say it that way. And you can call it abuse, you can call it anger, you can call it outrage, you can call it taking advantage of people. There's a lot of labels that we can give to it, but for the conversation that we're having right now, let's just make a distinction that there's two people. One person is the one that's being confronted, and the other one is the person that confronts. And the reason why I love this conversation so much is because it took me years to understand that this is what I say, just because there's a shoe lying in the middle of the room, it doesn't mean that I have to put it on. So just because someone is yelling at me, or someone is being rude or disrespectful or hurtful or cruel, people can be very, very cruel because they're asleep. So back to the beginning of the conversation where I said there's always two people. So we come to this confrontation or this conversation in life with our own point of view, with our own hurts, with our own open wounds, with our own I can't see what you guys are writing. You so need this? Oh, Jay, I would love to come and do a talk at the university about this, because I'm 60 years old now, and it's taken me so long to get to the other side of this. And the reason why I'm talking about it today is because I actually had a very embodied experience of a huge attack last night. And I watched myself be in this situation, and I know it was very humbling, actually. It was humbling in a way that I actually, for the first time in 60 years, I got to see myself not be reactive and come from a place of grace. And it was magnificent. It was so magical. And I decided in the moment when it was over and I was talking to the person who I had this interaction with, the download that came in was like, you really have to share this, because it can be shortcutted. This access to your own grace can be, it doesn't have to take 50 years, okay? Because if I were to tell you the story of what happened last night, you would say, Liana, why didn't you just take 2 forks and stick them in their eye, in that person? Because that's how we're used to reacting. So the person who gets confronted or attacked or being called names or slung through the mud or whatever, you can call it whatever it is, and I'm not talking about a physical attack because that's a whole different story. We want to lash out. We want to pay back. We can't stand the fact that we have this welling of emotion inside of us, and we are not big enough. Our bodies are not big enough, strong enough, expansive enough to allow for all of these emotions. And it's not just your emotions. The person who's being confronted or yelled at or spoken to is also taking in the energy of the other person, kind of like in Aikido when a mass is coming at you, you kind of blend, you can blend with it, but we don't blend. We want to attack. We want revenge, because our bodies and our life and our minds, mind, body, soul, all of it together, we have not been given the opportunity, most of us have not, to relax into the body and to let the body, because the body is the vessel for the soul, to let the body really just do what it does. Cycle through these feelings, cycle through these emotions, and not stay in the head, but just really be in the body and notice while this is happening, what's happening in my body? What's the tingling at the back of my tongue? What's happening like pins and needles on the back of my hand? Instead of being over there and abdicating your strength and your joy and the moment of your life which you're in, instead of abdicating it to the other person's reactivity and their massive attack that's coming at you, or their hatred or their anger or their frustration or whatever it is, stay in here. And I know that it's not an easy thing to say. So at the beginning of this conversation, I wanted to share with you, and I shared with you, for those of you who've just come on, this is not a short conversation. This is a lifelong practice, yet it can be shortened. And the way that I'm trying to show you what it's like is when an incident like that happens, instead of going out and instead of attacking back, instead of yelling at the person, instead of putting your focus and your emphasis on your nemesis, pull your energy back in and pull it into your own body and notice what's happening. Is your heart racing? Are you breathing? See, I always say God is in a breath. So when moments like that happen, we forget to breathe. We don't forget to breathe. Our bodies are made for fight, flight, and we just don't breathe. We lock everything up. So this incident that happened last night, I mean, it came out of nowhere. And usually incidences like this come out of nowhere. You're not, you don't go into a party and think, oh, okay, someone's just going to get up and start attacking me. We don't have that. We come to a party or to a family gathering, or you come to a business event and everything's great and everything's fine. And then suddenly something has the potential to happen. And so fortifying our bodies, fortifying who we are as a strong, grounded human being is it's like a very daily practice. And we can do it in a way that when those moments happen, we have the agency and the consciousness to not go out there to where we're being attacked, to who's this person and why the hell are they doing this, and they have no right to talk to me like this, and I haven't done anything, and defend ourselves. That what happens in situations like that is that think about a situation for yourself. Think about a situation where you were being attacked, or somebody was being rude, or it's almost like an accident on the street. You know, when somebody rear ends you just, there's only reactivity. There's no grounded consciousness. There's no clear thought, because we're so shook up, so shaken up. And so the conversation about there's another person and here am I, so there's one that's being spoken to and there's one that is doing the speaking. So for this conversation, let's say it's an attack. Or sometimes it feels like an attack. Maybe it's not even an attack. What if you couldn't understand what this person was saying? What if somebody is standing in front of you and speaking Chinese and you do not speak Chinese? It wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt you. So there's multi-layers and multi-levels to this conversation of conflict. And the next piece of this is what we give meaning to. So if a person that you don't know is screaming and yelling at you, you'd most probably think, oh, well, this person's a schizophrenic, maybe he's not on his meds, you wouldn't take it so personally. But if it's your mother or your daughter or your husband or your lover or your boss, it becomes very personal. So the layers in conflict and uncomfortable situations has the many different layers that it takes on. Is what's your relationship to this person, and can you even is it even possible for me when I'm being so confronted? Oh, and then there's more. Are you being confronted separately, or in front of your whole tribe, like in front of your whole office? Is your boss yelling at you in front of your whole office team? Or in front of the whole family? Hi, Olivia. It's so good to see you here, honey. So notice the distinctions of, first of all, there's me, and then there's another person. And the conflict that's going on is between the other person and me. By the way, while you're doing all of this, very gently put into the mix of this thought process the fact that you've done this to somebody else. And what is it that's happening over there to that person? Meaning you weren't grounded, or I wasn't grounded. I've done this to so many people. I wasn't grounded. I was really, really angry, and I was so upset, and I just lashed out. So this works both ways, but today we're only going to be focusing on the person who's receiving the negative information. Next week, maybe Thursday, maybe we'll do this on Thursday, we'll talk about the other piece of this is when you're the one who's really upset and you talking to somebody else. Let me just see who else is coming on here. Thank you guys for being here. So nice that you guys are all here. Thank you for watching. I know you've got a lot on your plates, and it's evening and everybody's out there doing really cool stuff, and it's the end of summer. So conflict needs conversation, and conversations bring up conflict. Not always, but the truth is, if we were equipped to speak in a manner that is kind and loving and still makes the point, then we wouldn't have all this reactivity that most people have. So the situation I was in last night, these days everybody has a phone and everybody's flipping out their phone. I know I'm on different stages all over the world, and constantly people are videotaping me. They don't have my permission, but they do it, and then they post it, and it's not the most flattering angle, and you look kind of weird, and people are taking pictures. But anyway, I've come to terms with the fact that this is what happens. It's like people are going to take pictures and they're going to post them, and no one's going to ask me. And I was in a situation where I was taking a picture or taking a video because for my own memory's sake, not because I wanted to go out and show it to anybody, and this person got very upset. There were so many people in the room, but this one person got very, very upset. And it was interesting to be in a conflict with someone I don't know, and to be so viscerally and openly attacked. Viscerally, like there was venom coming at me. And then there were some things that this person did that were just, I don't use this word a lot, but they were vile. It was like a vile kind of it was a vile act. And, you know, while this was all happening, besides the fact that my heart was very sad, the thought that slithered across my heart was, how angry must this person be already that me just taking a video unknowingly, not with any malice intention, there was no malice intended, how angry must this person be that me just putting a pinch of salt on this wound gave an explosion of a tsunami of anger. So this is just for Thursday's conversation. So if you are in the mix of this and you're listening to this and you're thinking, well, I've yelled at people and I've said things and I've been critical and I've confronted people, just for Thursday's conversation, because we're going to talk about that on Thursday. Hi, Wendy. So good to see you here, sweetheart. But for today, I would love for you guys to share, what's it been like to be the recipient of less than kind words and less than kind actions? And would you love a vehicle or a tool by which you can actually train yourself and your body, the embodiment of strength, the embodiment of conscious and deliberate action, choice? Reaction is not a choice. Most people think they're choosing, but they're not. Your hormones and your adrenaline and your negative thought pattern and your activity from your childhood is usually not making a choice, it's reacting. So conflict, for me, the foundation of conflict and these very difficult conversations is a compromise. And the compromise doesn't happen in the moment that the conflict is arising. The compromise happens before. Meaning, can I be with myself and look at myself from all these different angles? Can I compromise 10 minutes of my time during the day and just set it aside? You know? Can I actually take care of my own mind and my own body and the way that I'm being in the world, that I fortify my emotional and my spiritual and my psychological and my physical body, my muscles, all of those muscles, including the physical muscle, so that when these moments arise, that I can tap into my grace. You know, so many of you are listening right now, you've heard me say this in Farsi. There's a really beautiful statement, and it goes, Beshino befarma betamar ye mani darat, which means, sit down, put your butt on that chair, and please have a seat on my throne, all mean the same thing. The truth is, how are we expressing, in what kind of a mood, with what kind of choice of words? You can say anything you want to anybody. The question is, what level are you staying at? Or what level do we all stay at as humanity when we speak to one another when things are difficult? So conflict is not so much the fact, I mean, you see this in diplomacy. In diplomacy, you see people are on complete opposite ends of the spectrum, and they're still communicating, they're still speaking to one another, and they're having a glass of champagne, and they're not on the same page, but they're not ripping each other apart. So this is not a conversation about diplomacy. This is a conversation of consciousness. Can I be conscious? Can I stay so conscious in my own body that I can recognize the tingle, that I can recognize the adrenaline rising, that I can recognize that this person who's yelling and screaming at me most probably has their own difficulties going on, and me being reactive in this situation is not going to make it better. And I don't think that we've ever been taught that. You know, we had parents who got very angry and very reactive, if not with us, then with our other siblings or with other people. How many of us can say that we grew up without being yelled at? And a child internalizes that. So we take that kind of internal child, the wounded, the, oh my God, I'm the victim in this situation. We take that into our adulthood, and then we bring the past into the present moment when those things happen. Rather than being the 60-year-old in a 60-year-old body with a 60-year-old mind and a 60-year-old heart, we become 60 years old, and then it could possibly, the 5-year-old shows up. So bringing all of it together in a way that you can, and I don't want to say bypass the emotions, because being with the emotions while they're happening, but not going over there to the other side, not abdicating your strength and your willingness to be in the moment and to stay calm to the other person's behavior or to the other person's words, because it matters so much what people think of us. And then rather than becoming stronger and getting bigger and being the stand for some wonderful new possibility, no matter what the other person is doing, we tend to, most of the world tends to go down to the other person's level, and then you were at a really high level, and then you go down and you meet them at their level, and then we just become like that. We become just like the other person, rather than staying at a high level. So staying at a high level requires discipline. It requires exercise, daily exercise. It requires meditation. It requires an understanding of these situations when they happen all the time, because they happen in everyday life. By the way, Wendy's on this call. She knows a little bit about that. Wendy, are you still there? I can't really see who's on, so I know that you come on, you say hi, that way I get to see you, I get to see who you are, but I don't see over time because it's just like a small screen. So I would love to know from those of you who are watching, and those of you who watch this later, please share with me, what's it been like for you to be in conflict and to be in a conversation that's hurt you? Where do you go? Do you go to revenge? Do you want to go react? I told the story to someone today, and this other person listening to the story of what happened last night said, oh my God, I would have killed them. I would have killed these people. And I said, you know what? I didn't. There was no desire for revenge. There was just a desire to share something that I was conscious of. That's it. And it was really beautiful. And you know what was so beautiful about it? What was the most beautiful piece of this whole interaction? And it was a room full of people. I mean, I could have gone to shame. I could have gone to blame. I could have done all kinds of stuff. But what happened for me is that I felt this beautiful sense of freedom, because I wasn't at the behest of my own anger. I wasn't incarcerated by my own reactivity. I wasn't, it was just such a beautiful feeling, It was like, when I say I want to empower others to have a shortcut into this, I really mean it. Because I think last night for me was a big opening to go, wow, I totally get what this is. because I know what it's like to be on the other side. I've been, those of you who've been listening to me for a while, you know that my book, the next book that's coming out, it's titled From Defiance to Dignity. From defiance to dignity. I mean, this is like I am and have been the embodiment of anger and defiance and, I'm going to get you. Because, why it doesn't matter. And why it doesn't matter anymore. But when you've done it your whole life, it's in your body, it's in your muscle. And I used to feel entitled and this was right and these people are not allowed to do this. But it didn't do anything positive. My defiance and my anger and my reactivity didn't get me what I really wanted. There's another Liana on. How beautiful. I think of it as being able to witness ourselves well. Yes, and then choose otherwise. That's so true, Olivia. However, to get there is not like an easy path. It's a path that's fraught with constant reactivity. So the training, how do I train myself to not do that? With little things. Like the little things that we get upset about. We walk through the world, our light is shining, everything is absolutely great, and we're sparkling along, right? And then somebody comes and does that. And then we let them. We let them do this. We abdicate our joy and our light and our bigness and our beauty and our sparkle to someone else's whatever's going on in their world. When we react to what they're doing or saying or bringing or being angry about. So somebody could come and do this and you can just do that. And you can just keep rising to a higher level. I had a beautiful conversation with a friend of mine last night inside of all of this. And he just kept saying, Liana, rise above. You rose above. And often that's not easy. Let me just see what you guys are writing. It's so beautiful. Liana, I always try to stay away from conflict. But some people who knows me, Liana, where are you? Which part of the universe are you lighting up today? Because I know my reaction is calm. This is a beautiful thing you're saying. So Liana says, I always try to stay calm from conflict, stay away from conflict. But some people who know you will use their anger against you. So I had, as part of this whole conversation, one of the things that came out was that reaction or reactivity doesn't always have to happen in anger. Like you don't always have to be on the other side and going, well, I'm just not going to react. That's also reaction. So there's two ends of the spectrum. One is to go out and punch the guy's face out, or the woman who's angry at you or yelling. And the other one is to just become so shut down to not have any kind of emotions. But neither one of these are an empowered stance of freedom. I always say life doesn't happen on either end of the spectrum. It happens in the middle. It happens in the gray zone. And that's where I was last night in this interaction. Let's call it an interaction. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful to witness myself peaceful. And people around me kept saying, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. And I really was good. And the truth is that the way that this happened last night has never happened to me before. I've never been this free and calm, and it wasn't so much like water off a duck's back. A lot of people say that. It was more like, wow, this isn't even mine. That's how it felt, It felt like I saw the opportunity that this wasn't me, that this had nothing to do with me while it was happening. And I really can't say anything else but that it was freeing. It felt like a grasp. I got to grasp and create freedom for myself in a situation that other people, and there were a lot of witnesses to this situation, other people just were mortified. They were mortified for me, which was actually kind of sweet. And it was very powerful, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful that it happened, really grateful that it happened, because it was a huge lesson for me, and I got to see myself in a light that I didn't even know I could possibly show up that way for myself and for the situation. And that's the reason why I'm sharing it with you without too much detail. Denisha, hi. Hi, Doris June. I love you. Thank you for saying what you said. You know me, Doris. I can so easily rip somebody's head off. Thank you so much all for being here. Oh, wow. Look at all these cool people here. Thank you so much. If you guys can tell me, if you haven't done it already, share with me which corner of the world you're lighting up tonight. I'd love to know where you are. I know Doris is in Great Neck in New York. I don't know. I think you are you back in New York? And Olivia is, I don't know, Olivia, you've moved like 15 times in the last 2 weeks. Where did you move to? Are you? I love you, honey. Thank you, Doris, for saying that. I know you've seen me since I was a little girl. So you know my path, and you've seen me, you've watched me grow up. You watched me get married, you watched me grow up. We watched each other have children. So Doris, who's on this call today, we grew up in Germany together, and we've been through a lot together, and we both know of one another's history, and we had children the same year. We were pregnant together. Really quite a phenomenal life. I love you, Doris June. Thank you so much for being here. So thank you for sharing, for those of you who've shared something. I can't see all of it, but Liana, from one Liana to another Liana, thank you so much. Tell me where you are. Did you tell me where you are in the world? I don't think you've told me. Liana Lilo, tell me where you are, sweetheart. Yeah, good and bad, Doris. Yes, we have. We've been through good and bad together. More good, though, than bad. So tonight's conversation is about the person who's being, who is being confronted. On Thursday, so get yourself ready for Thursday's conversation. What if you're the one confronting? How much can this conversation and the piece that goes around this? So I'm going to create like a whole step-by-step program for this. Jay, if you're listening to this, this is a whole transformational workshop on, everybody's talking about empowerment, and I've been in the world of empowerment for 40 years. I'm part of the Association of Transformational Leaders, and we're doing all this cool stuff. The truth is, there's so much talk about, you got to be woo-woo, and you have to meditate, and you have to do... No one really wants to talk about the dark underbelly of humanity, and we all have it. It's not like, we all have adrenaline, and we all have cortisol, and we all have, endorphins, and we have all these we have so much greatness that goes through our body, but nobody really wants to talk about the stuff that's unpleasant. The elephant in the room that everybody is using as a clothing rack. Stop throwing your clothes on it. Let's talk about it. It's the stuff that is hard for people to talk about. Like abuse, and like sadness, and like depression, and all of these conversations that are so vital for us to thrive. Thriving doesn't come when the sun is shining. Thriving comes from, how am I being when things are difficult? How can I support you in lifting you up while I'm climbing, and how can we support each other in conversations where, you know, you had a difficult time and I've been there, and we can help each other. My grandmother, she used to say something, my aunt actually, my father's sister, Dolat Khanum, she used to say, آدم قصه هاشو مثل تاج باید بذاره سرش, which means we all should wear our problems like a crown on our head, and the rest of it is because if you don't wear it like a crown on your head and you stick it in your back pocket, nobody can see it. But when you wear it on your head, then somebody can see it, and then they might have a solution for you. Solution. You know, and the truth is that our world is problem oriented. Look at television. Look at, which I don't have a TV. No, I haven't had a TV in 30 years. I don't watch TV. So it's all problem oriented rather than solution oriented. And when this incident happened, my first thought was, oh my God, I just want to share this to empower, especially women, to empower other women to stand strong. How can I give you a piece of what I just tasted, this taste of freedom that was so magical and so beautiful? And it didn't just come from nothing. It came from a lot of different things woven together. Let me just see what you guys are. Denisha, thank you so much for being here. And Liana, I didn't find out which part of the world you're in. So if you can, let me know. And then there is Marjan. Thank you, Marjan, for being here. I'm so glad you're here. So if you'd like to share, I would love to hear what it's like for you being on the receiving end of conflict and criticism and sadness, or being spoken down to. Loopy, thank you for your hearts. That's so sweet. You know, what's life like for you when it's like that? What do you feel in your body? What do you feel in your heart? What's happening in your mind? What's happening with you as a human being? Where are you? Where do you hold yourself in that state? And here's why I want to know. Because I want all of us to learn that in that state of fear and fright, we don't have any agency. We cannot advocate for our best self, nor can we advocate for the person who's attacking us. When we're calm and we're grounded and we actually rise above the situation because we've practiced it, we can completely advocate for everybody in the situation, first and foremost ourselves. It's kind of like, you know, when you're on a plane and they tell you have to put the mask on first and then you can help other people. So this fortification of who we are as mankind and practicing it every day in front of our children, in front of our grandchildren, to be subtle in our words, in the choice of our words, in the mood with which we deliver the words. You know, this, what I was saying earlier, Bishtino Befamo Bitamag, is put your butt on that chair, sit down, and have a seat on my throne. They all mean the same thing. It's the mood with which we deliver words and meaning and intention or intentionality or a feeling. You can say anything you want to somebody. You know, you can just say, you know, I'd rather you please not take my picture. Would you please respect my wishes? And then the other person can know, but you don't have to yell at them. You don't have to be rude to them. Actually, often grace, this is what I've learned. Grace and deliberate intention and kindness and mindfulness are much, much more powerful than harsh words. Really. I'm telling you, this is from somebody who's used a lot of harsh words. Ask Doris. Oh, wow. Let me just read what you guys are writing here. Hi, Barry. So nice to see you. I can't find the middle in conflicts and I run away. Because it's making me sick. Well, Liana, I am so grateful for your honesty and for you sharing this, because you are the exact person, or the situation that you're describing is the exact reason why I want to share on how you can fortify yourself, how you can get stronger, how you can not be in reactivity about all of these things. Like, being a victim does not serve us, okay? And it's not that somebody can just come and say, hey, you got to stop being a victim. You don't need to be a victim. Or you're just like, I'm such a victim. I'm being yelled at. My mother, my husband, It's about knowing that you are at choice, that you have agency. And agency doesn't mean reactivity. It doesn't mean that. Agency is taking a breath and looking at a situation and going, I can be here and I can listen to this and I don't have to take it personal. Which is actually what most people last night, there was one very, very wise woman in the crowd who knows me, she knows my mom. And she came up to me and she said, as soon as this happened, I sat down and she came up to me and she said, I want you to know, please do not take any of this personally. And it was so beautiful for her to say that, and how she had my back and she was loving. And I didn't. I mean, even before she said it, I was in the understanding, wow, this is not even about me. It's like, it was, maybe I was just the straw that broke the camel's back. So this person must have already been, like I said earlier in the conversation, so unbelievably wound up or upset or whatever. But if I were to take that personally, or you're standing in line at the supermarket, or somebody on the street is yelling at you, or your mother comes at the end of the day and says something mean. People are mean all the time, not because they want to be mean to you, but because they've got their own, shit going on inside their own heads. And this is, I always say this, your head is a very bad neighborhood to go into by yourself. Don't go there. And so most of us go into our heads by ourselves, and then we wonder why we're scared of the dark. There's nothing in there. Our mind is wonderful, and it's helpful, and it helps us do math, and it helps us do technology. The emotional part of who we are and how we be in the world is a mixture. The Hoffman quadrinity process, which is a very powerful emotional, I call it an emotional striptease for a week. It talks about the body, the mind, the spirit, and the emotion. So those four pieces, when they come together, which they don't always come together in a human being. So one part of us, like mostly the mind, wants to rule. And so then when we go into our heads by ourselves, and there's no one there that we can talk to, and I mention the four parts of our bodies because we can be fully self-contained and take care of ourselves when our body, our mind, our spirit, and our emotion are in sync with one another. When one isn't trying to make the others wrong. Because when it happens inside of ourselves, we then go out and we make other people wrong. But we're 7 billion people. Everyone's going to have a different point of view, which is completely valid. But that doesn't mean we have to push it on somebody. Let me just see who's here. Hi, Carlos. Mind, body, spirit, emotion. Not exactly reality. What do you mean by that, Carlos? Please do tell. And Barry, if you're not attached to how people see you, you're free. Yes, Barry, you weren't here when I was saying this earlier. I'm just going to repeat it. It might be something that's worth repeating. The meaning that we give to the people and what's coming out of their mouth. So mother, sister, lover, brother, children. We attach meaning to the important people, and we attach meaning to what comes out of their mouth. And I think that fortifying myself or fortifying ourselves, and I've been talking to children about this a lot, and children really get this. They go, yeah, I don't have to say that. I don't have to say everything that's in my head. I was talking to this kid the other day, and I said, well, what did you think when that was happening and you were having a fight with this other boy? I said, I really wanted to say something, but then I didn't. I'm like, wow. And then I said, so how did that feel? And you know what she said to me? She said, it felt really good not to say anything because I'm better than that. A child! And then we can't get adults to say that. Hang on 1 second. Everyone interprets their body, mind, spirit, and emotion in their own way, but it doesn't mean it's everyone's reality. Yes, I didn't say that it was that for me. It doesn't have to be that for you. It's just I've experienced it in a way that it's really powerful when they're all in sync with one another. No, it doesn't have to be that way for you, Carlos. But thank you for watching. So I'm glad you guys are here. Loopy, maybe you can let me know what time it is so that I'd like to ask one more question, but I want to make sure that we are respectful of time. And I want to talk a little bit about what is going to happen on Thursday. So if you can just let me know. Yes, thank you, sweetheart. So we have a few more minutes. I wanted to give us an hour. So first of all, for those of you who've just joined us, at the beginning of this conversation, I mentioned that in conflict, there's always two people. One is the person who's being spoken to, and the other one is the person who's speaking. Now, it could be positive, it could be negative, but for this conversation, it's conflict. Conflict, and then being faced with an attack or being faced with detriment. And for those of you who came on later, Carlos, I hope you go and watch, and Barry, I hope you go and watch the whole thing. Because I think there were some things in there at the beginning, especially for women, Barry, you always talk about the distinctions and the differences between men and women. I want to come back to this piece that there's two parties involved in conflict, at least two parties. And that, just like in diplomacy, if we choose, because diplomats actually choose, they don't make it personal. They look at a situation and they say, okay, well, these are the possibilities, these are the options. They don't always look at it as a challenge. So I believe that when we fortify our bodies in a way that we can actually be in a situation that's difficult and have the body be able to hold the vessel of anger, because you're going to be holding somebody else's anger, including your own emotions. That's what a powerful stand is, to take a powerful stance without being reactive, being calm, and letting things flow through us rather than having them run us or having our emotions hijack us. So that's what this conversation has been about, and I'm delighted that you guys are here. And I would love to know, when was the last time you were in a conversation that was really difficult, where you grounded yourself and you were able to not react, but rise above? And what happened? What did actually really happen? Not with the other person, but inside of you. Because I think when we get to experience ourselves as a bigger human being, as a a bigger vessel, because our bodies are the place where these emotions are living. They don't live in our mind. You know, all the adrenaline that rushes through our body, and it's all in the muscle. So many of you have heard me say this, that knowledge is in the head and wisdom lives in the muscle. So feelings and emotions for me live there too. Carlos, I'm not saying everybody else. This is just my own opinion. And if you don't agree, I totally understand. And I'm not saying that this is everybody's, but for me, it's like I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot through the body, and I believe that the body is not just a contraption to carry our brains around. You know, it's this beautiful space, temple, vessel that we get to live in, that we get to experience our whole life. Hold on 1 second. How can you take it personally when someone is telling you? How can you not take it personally when someone's telling you bad things personally? Oh, yes, Liana. From one Liana to another, I get it. I get it. There's a training path that is attached to this, Liana. And I've had people say horrible things to me. I mean, last night was it was not nice. Let's just say it that way. It wasn't. But I still didn't take it personally. You know, you can get so fortified and so strong that even if someone is talking about something that you don't like about yourself, you can still let it stay over there on the other side. It doesn't have to seep into your being. See, once it seeps into our being and we start becoming reactive, the situation is basically doomed to failure. So why not you be the person that keeps it at a high level? It doesn't matter whether what they're saying is true or not. It doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is, who are you being when shit hits the fan? Or shift hits the fan? You think I misunderstood? I'm saying people's versions of reality isn't the way others see it. Yes, Carlos, thank you for clarifying that. It's not. You're right. I said, I don't know if you were here when I said this earlier, we have 7 billion different points of view. And there will always be that, you know? And besides the fact that there's 7 billion, my point of view today may not be the same point of view I had this morning at 10 o'clock. So it's not just that there's a diversity in people. And women, we know, as you know, all of you, women change their minds, I don't know, 5 million times a day. And we get to change our minds. So it's not even that, it's yes, thank you for clarifying that, Carlos. Now I get it. Texting is not the thing to do. It's like actually come here, be in the same room, have a conversation. I'm telling you, I'm going to do an event. Hopefully by the beginning of the year. It's called Live Your Life in Style. For those of you, thank you, Lupi, it's 8 o'clock. For those of you who don't know what style in my world stands for, it stands, STYLE stands for Seek to Transform Your Life Every Day. And so I used to do 2 events every year, and then I started to travel, and then, but I think I'm going to do another one. So stay tuned. I'm really delighted that you guys are all here. Thank you so much for taking the time and the energy and the love and for typing in your comments. Know that on Thursday, we're going to talk about the other side of this coin. So it's, what if you're the one confronting someone? What happens? Who are you? Well, who are you being? Did you think about it? So come to the conversation with lots of questions, because I think we should all life is a bunch of questions. Why this? Why that? So thank you all for being here. I'm so grateful. Let me just see. Many dwell on themselves and beat up on themselves. Yes. So I see you. I see your beauty. I see your greatness. It's that piece, actually, Carlos, that you just talked about, that held me grounded last night. And there was not an iota inside me that wanted to hit back at this person. And it was so magical. It was when I got into bed, I always had this gratitude practice. I was just so proud of myself, and I couldn't really tell anybody, but I was so proud of myself. Not because I forced myself into being nice or none of that. It was just who I was being. And it was so great. It was just beautiful, and I'm so grateful. So thank you guys for letting me share that whole story. Doris, I love you. So it's beautiful to be here with all of you. Thank you for joining me. I know that over on the East Coast it's really late. It's 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock not by now. And on Thursday we're going to start early, so we're going to start at 6:30 Pacific. Persian Standard Time, 6:30, but real 6:30. And I'll see you on Thursday. Thank you all for being here. Put your questions into the chat box or send me an IM. And I'm so grateful that you guys were here. Thank you. See you soon. Bye.